I'm Jennifer Cole, 35 years old, a marketing manager in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I built every single thing in my life with my own two hands. No safety net, no shortcuts, just discipline and an unshakable belief that hard work would always be enough. That belief was tested on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was sitting in a high-stakes client meeting, phone face down on the table, trying to keep my focus locked in when it buzzed. Then buzzed again.
And again.
I flipped it over. A text from my younger sister, Maya. Send me $2,800 for prom.
Now.
My jaw tightened. $2,800. For one night. A dress she'd wear once. A limo to show off. My fingers moved fast across the screen before I could second-guess myself. Earn it yourself. I turned my phone back over, expecting that to be the end of it. It wasn't. Within minutes, my mother's reply hit like a punch I never saw coming. Pay for your sister's prom or don't bother calling yourself part of this family. My father followed with 4 words, cold, clinical, final. Do the right thing. I sat there, heart hammering, staring at those words in the middle of a room full of colleagues who had no idea my world had just cracked open. The right thing. I'd sent them thousands of dollars over the years. Emergency after emergency. Bill after bill. And now they were threatening to disown me over a prom dress. Something shifted inside me in that moment. Not just anger, but a sharper, more painful feeling. The slow, creeping realization that maybe I had been taken for granted for much longer than I'd ever allowed myself to admit. That night, I paced my apartment for hours, replaying their words, replaying years of calls that always ended the same way, with me opening my wallet. And sometime around midnight, I made a choice. I picked up my phone, and I started canceling everything. By 8:30 the next morning, everything had changed. And what I uncovered next, a truth buried in years of lies, will shock you to your core. Backhand index pointing right. Have you ever been threatened by family over money? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear from you. And stay tuned, because part 2 reveals the family history that made this moment inevitable. To understand why Maya's text hit me the way it did, you need to understand what my family actually looked like from the inside. I was 17 years old when Maya was born. 17, already holding down a part-time job, already figuring out that no one was going to hand me anything. While I was scraping together lunch money, my parents were throwing a celebration for their new baby, like she was royalty arriving. From the very beginning, Maya was their golden child. The baby. The second chance. I heard my father say it once, casually, like it wasn't a knife straight to my chest. She's our second chance to get it right. I swallowed it and kept moving. My mother was the decision-maker in our house. Sharp, charming, always in control. My father was her quiet enforcer, nodding along to whatever she decided. Together, they gave Maya everything. Designer clothes at 12, $2,000 princess birthday parties while I worked weekends to pay for college textbooks, concert tickets, weekend trips with friends, all of it, no matter what it cost them. Especially when it cost them things they didn't have. Because here's the part they never talked about. My parents were always broke. Not in a struggling to survive way. In a spending beyond their means way. Their house in suburban Lincoln was a constant money pit, always one repair away from crisis. Their savings were always almost gone. Yet Maya never went without a single thing she wanted. I ground through college on 2 jobs. By 25, I had my first marketing role. By 30, I was running campaigns for major clients, living alone, comfortable, finally free. That's when my parents started calling more often. So 4 years ago, I set up a joint family account. I thought I was being responsible, being the good daughter. I loaded it monthly. Told them it was for bills, utilities, groceries. The basics. I was too busy to monitor it closely, too trusting to question it. I should have questioned it. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. New jewelry on Maya. My mother's vague excuses about unexpected expenses. My father's brief, transactional calls always ending the same way. Can you help us out a little this month? I believed them, every time. I was the responsible one. The fixer. The one who kept their heads above water while Maya got a free pass through life, never once being told no. until I said it, and everything exploded. Backhand index pointing right if this hits close to home. Subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because in part 3, Maya's $2,800 demand was just the surface of something much darker. After I sent that text, "Earn it yourself," I thought Maya would sulk. Send back something bratty. Maybe go cry to my parents, and then let it go. Instead, she called me. Her voice was shrill, that particular pitch she'd perfected over years of getting exactly what she wanted. "You're so selfish, Jennifer. It's just prom. Why can't you help me for once?" I gripped the phone and kept my voice even. "You're 18. Plenty of kids work part-time jobs for prom. Try it."
She scoffed.
"You don't get it. I deserve this." Then she hung up. I deserve this. Those 3 words sat in my stomach like a stone. When had she started believing my money was something she simply deserved? I tried to get back to work. I couldn't. My thoughts kept spiraling. Every time my parents had made me feel guilty for saying no, every time Maya had gotten something I'd only ever dreamed of at her age. The unfairness of it burned, sharp and familiar. And then, just before noon, my phone buzzed with a voicemail. A voicemail Maya clearly had meant to send. I could hear her voice, annoyed, whining, completely unguarded. "Mom, Dad, Jennifer is being impossible. Tell her she has to pay." I stood in my office, listening to it twice, picturing her pacing their living room, playing the victim as always. Within minutes, my mother's text arrived. "Pay for your sister's prom or don't bother calling yourself part of this family." Then my father's. "Do the right thing, Jennifer." I called Maya back and asked simply, "Why is this such a big deal to you?" Her answer floored me. "Ask Mom and Dad. They said you'd pay. It's my right." Her right. I nearly laughed. "You don't have a right to my money," I said. And she screamed. Actually screamed, "You're ruining everything," and hung up again. That's when I opened my banking app. I scrolled back through years of transfers to that family account. Thousands sent without a single question asked. $1,500 here. $800 there. Each one labeled necessities. My mother's voice echoed. The car broke down. We had a rough month. We're barely making it, Jennifer. I'd believed every word. Now, staring at the numbers, something felt deeply wrong. Their threats were too fast, too coordinated. The voicemail, the prom demand, my father's cold forward text. This wasn't just about a dress. Something had been going on in that account, and I was done pretending I didn't need to find out what. Subscribe and hit the bell, because in part 4, I pull the bank records open with a lawyer by my side, and what we find will leave you speechless. That evening, I sat across from my friend Ellen Ward, a sharp, no-nonsense lawyer who worked just down the hall from my firm. I told her everything: the prom demand, the voicemail, my parents' coordinated threats, and the bank alert that had pinged my phone earlier that afternoon. A $5,000 transfer from the joint family account. That morning, without my approval, Ellen didn't flinch. She pulled up the account records with the credentials I provided, opened her laptop, and went to work. Her fingers moved quickly, methodically, and within minutes, her brow furrowed. "There are multiple large withdrawals," she said quietly. "Some to creditors, others to retail accounts." "Retail?" I leaned forward. "What kind of retail?" She scrolled. "High-end boutiques. Jewelry. A travel agency." My mouth went dry. This was not utility bills. This was not groceries. She kept digging, pulling statements, cross-referencing transactions, going back year by year. And then she stopped. "It looks like your parents have been using this account to pay off debts," she said carefully. "Credit cards, a car loan, and..." She paused. "A second mortgage. A second mortgage." They had told me the house was nearly paid off. Then came the smaller withdrawals, consistent, relentless, to clothing stores, restaurants, and a prom event planner. Ellen circled one entry and slid the screen toward me. $3,000 to a high-end event planning company. Maya's $2,800 demand suddenly made perfect, devastating sense. She'd been raised to believe my money was simply available to her, because it had been. The next morning, Ellen had the full picture. I sat in her office, a folder of bank statements in front of me, and read the number that made the room tilt. $100,000. Over 4 years, $100,000 had been drained from that joint account. My money, siphoned out, quietly, systematically, while I was too busy and too trusting to look. They'd paid off debts I didn't know existed, funded a lifestyle I hadn't agreed to, used every dollar I sent for emergencies to paper over a financial disaster of their own making. And all this time, I'd felt proud of myself for helping them. I was bankrolling their lies. Ellen's voice was calm. People justify anything when they're desperate. She was right. And I knew exactly what I had to do next. I went home that night, called the bank, and instructed them to close the joint account. Then I opened my email and wrote 3 sentences to my parents and Maya. The joint account is closed. I know about the $100,000. No more money. I hit send. My hands were steady. My chest was heavy. Their responses came within hours: rage, panic, accusations. But for the first time, I didn't feel afraid of them. Don't go anywhere, because in the final part, I drive to their house with the bank records in hand, and the confrontation that follows changes everything. Subscribe so you see it the moment it goes live. 1 week later, I drove to my parents' house in suburban Lincoln. Folder of bank documents on the passenger seat. Hands tight on the wheel. I'd spent 4 years sending them money. I'd spent the last week facing the truth about where it actually went. Now I was going to make them face it too. I walked into their living room, and I didn't soften it. "I know everything," I said, dropping the folder onto the coffee table. "The account I set up to help you, you took $100,000 from it. You're drowning in $500,000 of debt." My mother's eyes filled with tears immediately. But it wasn't guilt I saw. It was fury. "How dare you dig through our private business? This is family." My father stepped forward. "We had no choice, Jennifer. Debts pile up. You were supposed to help us." Supposed to help. I'd sent them thousands every year after year. And what I got in return was threats, manipulation, and a coordinated campaign to squeeze more. Maya sat in the corner, staring at her phone. Silent. Letting our parents fight her battle, as always. That silence, that blank, entitled silence, cut deeper than anything they said. I spread the documents across the table. Transaction logs, bank statements, credit card payments, the second mortgage, the boutiques, the travel agency, the $3,000 prom event planner charged to my account. I laid it all bare. My mother wept. My father accused me of betrayal. Maya said nothing. And when my father looked me in the eye and told me I couldn't walk away, that I owed them, I felt something click into place inside me. "I don't owe you anything," I said. "The account is closed. No more money. You're on your own." I gathered the documents, walked to the door, and left while they were still shouting. I didn't look back. 6 months later, I heard through a distant cousin that my parents had filed for bankruptcy. The $500,000 in debt had finally collapsed under its own weight. The house was gone. My sister had taken a part-time job at a clothing store, folding shirts, ringing up customers, finally learning what it meant to earn something. I didn't feel triumph. I felt something quieter than that. A bittersweet, bone-deep relief. I blocked their numbers, filtered their emails, started therapy to untangle years of guilt and manipulation. I rebuilt my savings, my confidence, my peace of mind. Here's what I want you to take from my story. Family doesn't mean obligation. Love should never come with a price tag. I spent years believing it was my job to save them, that their chaos was mine to absorb. It wasn't. And learning to say no, to protect my own future, to stop letting their choices define me, that's what finally set me free. If you're out there living in a cycle like this, hear me. You don't owe anyone your security. Protecting yourself is not selfish. It's survival. If this story moved you, or made you think of someone you know, please share it. It might help someone find the courage to set their own boundaries. Subscribe for more real stories like this one. And drop a comment below. Have you ever had to walk away from family to protect yourself? I'd love to hear your experience. Your thoughts mean more than you know. Speech balloon.